went to Disneyland on Wednesday and I watched
Love
this
Disneyland.
parade. There was this little girl behind me and she was screaming, Ariel, I love you. Belle, I love you. She was screaming to all the different characters. And then, of course, the parade characters would turn around and blow her a kiss. And you could just hear her scream. She was so excited because she felt seen. And I feel like that's really important, just like parades in live events, is that people want to feel seen and called out and feel like they're actually there and not in a broadcast like you're just watching television, that they're actually in there in the room.
Being seen is one of our most human desires. It's why a little girl lights up when her favorite character turns and waves. It's why we lean in when someone says our name. And it's why the best creative experiences, on stage or on screen, make us feel part of something, not just an audience watching from afar. Welcome to Design Of. I'm your host, Justin Ahrens. And that's what today's conversation is about. How three creatives found a way to make digital feel human. Rachel Elnar, Heather Lynn, and David Carr-Berry spent years creating live and virtual events that went far beyond the broadcast. They built moments of real connection. Now through Together by Design, they're helping others do the same, building programs with purpose, hosting with care, and creating communities that last. As you listen, think about your own work. What would it look like if every project you touched helped someone feel truly seen? Enjoy the show.
I'm happy to be here. My name's David Carr-Berry, and I'm a director, and I have worked for this team a lot. We did a lot of work at Adobe, and now we're doing work outside of that. What drew me into creativity, I just really loved films and theater as a kid. Just love seeing really beautiful pieces of art in that format where there's performance involved, there's an audience involved, there's a sense that there's an actor or a performer who needs to share something that's important, and that's either from a script, from a writer, or from a director's imagination. I think that communication through art is a very powerful thing, and I've recognized it since I was a little kid, and I've done different versions of it as I've gone, and I really enjoy it. I found that for professional work, directing live events is extremely satisfying to me. I really like the synchronization of different people, synchronizing the technical side, synchronizing the people and the content, and reaching an audience at a time and date is very powerful. And it helps crystallize things, helps get people together on the same page. There's a lot of beauty to that. And then when you're done, you get to be done with it and you walk away. There's a real beauty in live events for me. And as a professional path, it's great because I give all of my excellence and my concentration to it, and then I can give it away to the universe, and then I can go and rest and relax and come back the next week. So I really enjoy that stuff. And finding Rachel and then Heather and the other folks we've worked with has been a real gift because I think we found a shared language. We're doing that really well.
I love it. Well, before I go to Rachel and Heather, David, since we're getting to know each other, I have to ask, I'm a cinephile. I have a little sort of challenge I give myself every year. I try to see 100 movies and or a play that I've never seen before a year. So I'm currently at 86.
Wow.
And I will see almost anything, not to get to my number, but to be open, because there's something about that story medium that just moves me in all the senses. So when you're going back to when you were a kid, what were some of the films and or directors or stories that really moved you?
Movies like Citizen Kane blew my mind. That was a moment when I was watching a movie, and of course I'd have my mom it was my mom, I think, at that point, who was kind of like talking me through it, like helping me understand how impressive it was, how beautiful it was, and that it could come out of people's imagination and go so far beyond just, here's a scene, let's just do the scene. These things like these moves through the opening shot of Citizen Kane, where you move through the sign and then into the room where they're interviewing them, the whole thing with the little globe that floats. I mean, cinema has this really intense way to expose the imagination and expose the subconscious or the unconscious of the characters. You go into the dream. So yeah, Citizen Kane was a big one. Orson Welles is just a powerful dude. And Orson Welles, his Othello was also very powerful, like very expressionistic, this very intense world that he creates. And I really like the Russian directors. I'm a huge fan of Tarkovsky and Eisenstein does some really powerful things. But then I also love people like Mel Brooks. Like Mel Brooks creates comedy and joy with such smartness and irreverence.
The Lord Jehovah has given unto you these 10 commandments for all to obey.
He's got this holy irreverence that shows up in movies like Young Frankenstein or Blazing Saddles. What was the To Be or Not to Be one? 1942 or something.
No,
To
I
Be or
keep
Not to
going.
Be.
This is probably degrading me in your eyes, but then I thought of Spaceballs right away.
Spaceballs is amazing. It has that irreverence of playing with the commerciality of cinema, commerciality of entertainment, but then kind of just by being cheeky about it kind of helps break down the falseness and then reveals the beauty. I just think, yeah, Mel Brooks is one of the geniuses for sure. I love that guy.
Well, I love it. Thank you. So I'm a Letterboxd guy, so I track all my movies on Letterboxd. So if you're not on Letterboxd, we should be Letterboxd friends. And, this is an audio podcast, but I wish I was doing video just to show how you lit up talking about cinema. That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Rachel or Heather, who wants to jump in next?
I'll go.
So what drew you into the creative world early on?
What drew me into the creative world? I've always been a very visual person. One of those things where you just draw while you're watching cartoons, eating cereal, constant doing drawings. I thought I was going to go into illustration. And then I thought I was going to be a fashion designer. Throughout high school, I took 4 years of sewing. And then I realized I hate sewing, so I have not sewed since then. But I used to create these, those little kits. Heather, do you remember what those were?
Those are the circle ones, like the
Paper?
cross-stitch ones, or something different?
No, they're paper pieces of all the different, I forgot what they're called. But anyhow, you would cut around them, right? And then you would sew those pieces together. So it was a template, basically, a template for creating clothes. And I would do those for my Barbies and dolls. And then I would have more enjoyment actually drawing the models on the paper pieces instead of actually sewing. Really love fashion design because of the drawing part of it. So I got into art and I got my bachelor's of art and my MFA. Everything was in art. And I was not interested in design because I thought that meant advertising. And I hate advertising. So yeah, I made my way through when I finished my drawing and painting MFA. Really got into digital design and learning how to code. Did a lot of work in installation design. I loved interactivity and interacting with the visuals. And because of that, I got into design, and I'm honestly just a designer at heart, which is why I do design events now, because I support that industry. I love creative people and how they see things. And so I want to continually support the community. That's how I got into the visuals, design.
Well, thank you for that, because we need more events these days. I feel like some of the bigger events that we were used to. In fact, AIJ is where we met, right? And luckily that is still alive-ish. So that's great. Thank you for that. Heather, can't wait to get to meet you. Tell me about you.
Well, thank you again for having us on the show. My name is Heather, and I come from a film production background. What drew me into the creative space was a little bit unexpected and out of my typical characteristics. When I was a teenager, I was dating a guy who is now my husband, and together we would make YouTube videos, just like pick our favorite songs and come up with a little story and shoot them together. And when it came time to go to college, I was like, hey, I really like making this stuff with you. I should study film. So I went to San Francisco State to study film and was totally uninterested in learning all of the film history and the theory of how to make a movie. So I left the school to actually go make our first movie. And that was when I was 19 years old. So that was just the two of us making a scrappy film that actually went to a bunch of festivals and got distribution. So that kind of sparked my love for filmmaking. I worked in films and I did commercials and music videos. I did some digital media with Snapchat. I think I was on day 2 of being home, and I got a cold reach out on LinkedIn from Rachel that was like, hey, I'm looking for a line producer for my digital events. Are you interested? And I had also just found out I was pregnant. And so I was like, I have no idea how to do digital events that, relate to a corporate company, these big marketing things, but sure. And from there, just this love for digital events and for my team was born. And I think that we were just able to make some really cool stuff. Even though we worked in that corporate environment, it really taught me a lot about you can make things that are worth watching and entertaining and have a community, even if it's just, quote, in quotes, a corporate event.
Well, that is amazing. And Heather, since we're all sharing stuff about ourselves, I have to share a little secret about me. I've always wanted to act in a movie. And I still believe it's going to happen. I remember I acted in my friend's senior thesis film when he's at Miami. And I just caught the bug, but I didn't pursue it. So, all right. So let's get to where you all came together, right? So Rachel, why don't you share how you kind of brought this team together and go from there?
Adobe had a program called Creative Jams. A lot of people know about the Creative Jam program because it was an event that toured around multiple metros. And it is basically a competition where everyone gets together and they get hands on a project and they build something as a team and win prizes. And so I was tasked when I jumped in on the in-person program to scale this and not have to fly everyone around the country and yet get more people on deck, more people on the software. And so it was me. I did it by myself. I had the camera set up. I got on a platform called Crowdcast and invited students, and we just did it. And I ran through it a couple times by myself, and because it became so popular, we needed help. And so right away, it was the technical. That was first. I think focusing on myself with a camera was very difficult. And then having lighting, and also not only just doing a show per se, but it's also competition. We want people to produce a project and submit it within the time we're online. So it's quite a balancing act. And so, yeah, David was my first partner on the team, and we started with the Creative Jams and sort of went from there.
So, David, when you were first asked by Rachel, what was your thought? Was this something you're like, oh, yeah, I see it? Or I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, at first I was like, well, they're doing something very small and it's lo-fi. That's what I really thought when I walked in. It was like, well, I'm not sure if this is even going to be satisfying, honestly. And when I started working with Rachel, I could see that what she really had, even though she was very scrappy by herself, basically self-taping, she had extreme passion for creating a community with these students, like a genuine, sincere energy that showed up on camera, especially when she wasn't. I think what blocked that passion to some degree was how stuck she was pushing the buttons. Because I kind of shadowed for a bit, just seeing how it worked. Like, all right, so what does the show look like? And I could see that she was being buried in these technical tasks. And so it was very clear to me that the first thing that had to happen was I had to take all the technical tasks away from her so that she could just be the host and be the anchor for all of the students to get to experience something, and all the guests, and not just students. I mean, there was a variety of different kind of folks being engaged, but what Rachel needed was the space to really communicate with them. And so once I started taking that on, it started becoming quite satisfying quickly, because I could help with the aesthetics. I could help make the frame for her to exist and then communicate really vividly to the audience, and help start setting up structure, essentially, that would enable the things to go more smoothly. For example, there were all of these people in remote locations that there wasn't a very good way to get a hold of them. Like, do we have their phone number if we need to reach them? What happens if their internet goes down? Do we have a list of people? What's the framework for getting people as competitors in? And so I saw that there was a huge gap for that too. And so I started making the rudimentary framework that would help with that ingest. When we got other folks on the team, they took it a lot farther. But I was able to at least say, all right, well, we need a hot sheet where we will have the phone numbers of the people we're talking to so that we can reach them. And we'll start to build things like a run of show. How long is this supposed to last? When are we over time? Does anyone know how long this show should be? And starting to ask those questions essentially made it so that I could make the frame for the content.
Rachel, after David came in, when did Heather join the team?
Yeah, Heather joined the team when we needed help with the talent. So I'll just back up a little bit and give you a little story. I was so buried because I was dealing with the instructors, the teachers who were helping out with these students. Again, these are co-located classrooms, basically. And Adobe was providing pizza. So here I am, while I'm on camera, on my phone, talking to DoorDash to make sure that they got their pizza while I'm trying to talk to the students. We were just overtasked. I was asking even David to help. Can you please call them and then give them instructions on how to get here? It's like, we're not even there. So it was quite a bit. And then we saw that we needed Heather to help with the talent and the line production and getting people ready for camera, making sure they felt good. Because for me, if we have speakers, the most terrifying thing is getting on a live event as a guest and not knowing if I'm on camera. Can you hear me okay? Do I look stupid? When you're on camera on a live event, there's nothing. It's crickets, right? You're throwing out jokes and you don't hear anything. And so Heather was that connection between what was happening on camera and what was happening on the technical side to make our talent feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
There were times when, just to get them comfortable to be on screen, we, in addition to Creative Jams, we're also working on a project called The Perfect Match, which was like a 70s style game show. David and I would show up to the tech checks wearing like our 70s gear with the hats and the glasses and all of that. And I think it helped break the ice a little bit. Hey, this is going to be in front of a lot of people, but don't worry, we're all friends here. Be comfortable and just have fun.
That's so great. So going back to your entry point, you just got off a grueling shoot. I guess you find out you're pregnant, and similar to David, what were some of your initial doubts or excitement, or how did you see it?
Well, I had never worked in a corporate setting. I could not figure out what these events were. Rachel's like, these are creative jams. And I'm like, you keep saying that, but I don't know what that means. So I watched a bunch of the shows and kind of got a sense for, okay, they are these really cool, design shows, what I thought was like a one-off with a school or a company. And as I had done a couple of these jams, I started to see a lot of familiar names keep popping up and realized that, okay, these are not just one-offs. Rachel and David and the team are building this community of designers or students that honestly we still hear from today. To see just so many people having this great time and putting in all of their efforts to do this prompt that we made up for, some brand. People are putting their all into it. And so to go back to your question, I was really nervous and I didn't understand what I was supposed to do. But as time went on, it just inspired me and we got super into it and very attached to these people in this community.
What I'll say about Heather is that while she was observing David and I and the team, we just didn't have all of our systems in place. We kept missing things. We would have typos on the screen. I would be writing my script way ahead of time. Heather helped build in some space and systems so we could do these week after week after week. Earlier this year, we were doing 1 to 2 of these webinars a week, and that is a lot. And you can't do that without having some really strong systems in place and great project management. So she had the operations thing down, and she just built it in.
That's awesome. So this question is to anyone who wants to take it, but I'm building off 2 things that you had referenced, Heather, but the first one is, can you explain to us as best as you can what makes an event feel alive and not just a broadcast?
I guess I will take this one. Really important. I mean, number one is when you join as an audience member, you don't want to feel like it's a dead room. So you want whoever's hosting that event or, somebody in the chat talking to you. Better yet, you want the host interacting with you. They see your name in the comments. Rachel's really quick to be like, hey, I see Sarah joining. Hi, Sarah, how's it going? That connection feels so good. And taking those moments for engagement throughout the show, having sort of that emotional arc where maybe you hear a keynote speaking, but then you as the audience member get to join a Q&A and talk to that person. I think for me, that is super important. And I can let David and Rachel give their inputs as well.
I'm just going to reiterate something that Heather said in terms of being seen. I went to Disneyland on Wednesday. And I watched this parade. There was this little girl behind me, and she was screaming, Ariel, I love you. Belle, I love you. She was screaming to all the different characters. And then, of course, the parade characters would turn around and blow her a kiss, and you could just hear her scream. She was so excited because she felt seen. And I feel like that's really important, just like parades in live events, is that people want to feel seen and called out and feel like they're actually there and not in a broadcast like you're just watching television, that they're actually in there in the room.
Yeah, I think that's really great. And so from my experience is both in film and cinema stuff, but also in theater. And I have a lot of time thinking about the theater experience. And the big difference is that theater is synchronous and there is an audience sharing the same space. But I think the best theater is where there is more of an acknowledgement of we're in this space together. People like Brecht did this really well. People like Shakespeare did this extremely well, where you have this feeling that at least some of the characters really do see the audience, have a sense that this is a witnessed event. This isn't just, what's hard about movie making is that you make it and then months go by. Like if you're the actor or you're on set, you're doing this, all the best work you possibly can, and months go by before anyone ever sees it. And when they do see it, it almost feels kind of disconnected from what you did. Screening a film that I directed, it felt almost like, is this even the same thing that am I even the same person I was when I was working on this with these people? Whereas with a live event, you are that person and they are that person right then. And by acknowledging that and finding ways to really embody that, it makes it really powerful. And I think that intention has to be there. If the intention is just to exploit the fact that they're there or to pander to the idea of like, hey, we've got an audience, so let's like throw some candy at them, that's not actually the secret. It's more around caring that the audience is there, respecting the fact that they have shown up to actually spend an hour of time. And if that intention is there, then everything else will kind of fall into place.
That leads into one of the things I was wondering about, and I would love to get your guys' opinion on it. So what you're sort of talking about too in the digital space is like content delivery, right? So when did each of you realize that an event like this could be more than that, right? That it was an experience?
Basically, when the content can change based on the audience. So there's times where the audience, those who are participating in the chat, are clamoring for something. And the fact that we can change the whole show based on what they're asking for, I think that is the true magic. That's something that just can't be replicated anywhere else, not even in live events, live sports, or even in the theater. Like really getting that participation of the participants in the audience and seeing that they really want to see something else, and you can shift the whole show to sort of not cater to them, but so that they participate in the creation of that moment. I think that to me is the most key thing about digital events.
I love that.
Something I saw too, if I could add to that, is especially with the creative jams, part one was always, let's have an inspirational speaker, let's issue the challenge, and then let's let them work the challenge. Part two was, they've worked the challenge and they're going to present what they've done. seeing, like, doing the part one is great, and that's where we get to cultivate the excellence and cultivate the right speaker and the right challenge. Part two is always a revelation, because what have they done? How are they going to bring their creativity to the front? And then also, what energy are they going to bring when they do it? And I was always really struck by the zeal. And this is particularly the case with student participants, but I saw it also with the Perfect Match and with the other things that we did. You have the zeal of someone participating and contributing something really sincerely that kind of washed away any cynicism or any feeling of like, oh, well, this is just another show, because to them, it's a moment. It's a moment for them to share something really sincerely. That was always a real beautiful thing to me to watch.
Just reflecting on what you just said, David, and Heather, you sort of mentioned this a little bit. Did you guys get a sense of why people showed up and why they wanted to participate?
I think being able to feel seen, because again, I joined back in 2021, so we're coming out of that COVID era, and there are so many digital versions of things out there. People were remote, people were even playing games with their friends online still. I think having that sense of community and familiarity and knowing that no matter what the content is that day, you're going to show up and have a good time is what kept people coming back. And so many companies, I don't think, knew how to run these digital events in a way that would inspire people. They just wanted to push their own agenda. But I think what made our events so unique was the fact about how much we were respecting our audience's time. You know, if they're going to show up, we want to respect their time and make them feel seen. You know, you're the Ariel up on stage. You want to wave hi to all those little girls out there. I think that's really was our differentiator on these shows.
That's amazing.
So being in the design industry, you and I, we know that we love rich visuals. When you walk into one of these corporate webinars or any webinar, you just see people in their guest bedrooms talking to each other, don't know what it is about, but not anything panache, but we definitely stepped it up visually. So for example, the Perfect Match, we had a scoreboard. We had 3, panelists who were big name designers, right? VPs of creative teams and whatnot. We had 2 participants. We had all the bells and whistles. We had music. We had intermission commercials from the 70s. I had a wig on. I had 70s gear. We had lights going on in the back. It looked like a game show from the 70s. So we really, really got into the theme. And I think that to me is the most fun, is not only just seeing us go overboard in terms of the format and really adhering the content to it. But if you just pass by it on LinkedIn, you would be like, wait, this looks totally different than a regular webinar. And that's what we're going for.
I love it. Let's say we're talking to one of those corporate companies right now, or just reflect on your experience. What would you say is the difference between building an audience and building a community?
I think Heather could talk to this one.
Building an audience is easy, right? You can spend a ton of money on ads, and that doesn't mean that they're going to show up. But building a community is those little personalized touches. I think attracting big talent is one thing that Rachel's also very good at. Her Rolodex is massive. Engaging with your audience, having that talent, that high-level speaker talk to, maybe it's an aspiring designer is talking to the person that holds their dream job. Like, they have questions and they'll likely get those questions answered. And again, respecting their time and engaging them with polls. We did game segments where you could see somebody very high up at Ben and Jerry's trying to play a quick game of, is this a real or is this a rendered image? And seeing their humanity versus just speaking to their corporate agenda.
For me, definitely community is when they keep coming back, for sure. So yeah, I mean, people come in all the time so they can get access to their heroes, their design heroes, as we like to say in AIGA. But the fact that they come back for each other and not just who the talent is, I think is what starts the community building.
Yeah, and there's some structural elements too. The fact that for all of our events, we made sure that there was a visible chat open, which for some reason not everyone will do. Like there will be a question mailbox or there might be just no chat at all. But the fact that we wanted to make sure that the chat was there so that the community can engage with each other as well as with us. And then I think another piece, Rachel, is the fact that you are a bona fide designer. And so you as a host, as an anchor, you're not just someone saying, you're not just for a company, you're not just a marketing person saying, oh, you're our target market, I'm going to talk to you or condescend to you. Instead, you're an actual person who understands the values at play and understands with real empathy what is interesting to that community. And so you have always been advocating for content that is relevant and interesting to that community. And then trying to make sure, of course, that it matches the company's or the stakeholders' needs. But if it doesn't match the community, then it's going to be pointless.
Because I'm allergic to brands and I really love the community. And so to me, that was the priority.
Well, this is a perfect segue for us to talk about the fact that you all had an incredible run running a variety of Adobe's creative jams and global events. And so what made you decide it was time to take that experience and start something new?
Well, one catalyst was that we got laid off. So that would be one. And the other was the fact that we realized that what we were sitting on was a mountain of gold. We have all of our experience, 7 years of experience of building jams and these digital events and webinars and whatnot. And we thought it could help other companies. I mean, there's no reason why Adobe gets to benefit from all these fun events and other companies can't engage the same way with their creative communities.
So share with me, as of today, what are the plans of how your group is called Together by Design? Do I have that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit about the name and just kind of the soul of what you're looking to do.
Yeah, the idea behind it is helping to build communities. After the pandemic, I think that communities in general have fallen apart. And the way back in is digital, creating inclusivity and creating accessibility. And so how can we replicate those in-person events from prior to the pandemic to now? And I feel like we were able to do that through both virtual and hybrid events. If we can help people do that, maybe we can bring the community together. Because there's one thing I hear all the time on the Cheers and Cheers podcast is, oh, I'd really love to get back to design events. I would really love to interact. I haven't seen Justin in a long time. What is he up to type of thing. And so having
You hear that a lot, I bet.
I hear it on every single episode.
I get it.
Everybody has been asking for Justin, 100%. And so, yeah, I think that digital is the way to go going forward to make sure that everybody has access to these events, to the understandings, to the learnings, to the takeaways. And so that's why we decided to get together and start building this. I don't know what this is, but we are building.
Well, I'm excited to, first of all, get to be at the sort of the beginning of this journey, because we are definitely going to do another show as you guys evolve. But I will share that one of the reasons I was super excited to talk to you guys is, long story short, 2024 was a really challenging year for me, and I was sort of out of the community. And starting in early this year, I started an event called At the Table, where I'd invite 4 people that I knew from different backgrounds. And I would basically feed them and give them a cocktail or mocktail. And for 2 hours, there was no plan, just unscripted opportunity for us to connect. And I have to tell you guys, it is beautiful. The things we talk about, the connections we make. In fact, I'm almost at the point where I feel irresponsible that there's not something next for them. And so one of the ways I was trying to figure out how to expand this is really aligned with what you guys are doing. I know you've shared about the personal touches, which is brilliant. David, you talked about having the screens available for people to connect, and Heather, the little things, and Rachel calling people out. So as you go forward, obviously it seems like you're going to carry that with you if you're going to do a live event. Make it human, make it personal, take it serious, focus. Don't just have people show up, build community. But what are some other things that you would love to share that have you excited about Together by Design?
The thing I'm really excited about is finding other teams like us. There are many teams that are just put together within corporate America or smaller businesses that are live streaming. When I started the Creative Jam 7, almost 8 years ago, it was so hard to go live. Like, we had to get software. I don't know if you remember this, Justin, but you would actually have to have a team set you up and turn the room on, because there was no way for you can do a self-serve. And now my nephew can pick up his phone and go live from walking upstairs to downstairs, talking about his day or whatnot. It's so easy. So because of that, I would love for people to learn, to take our learnings and to use live events to build community. People are doing live streams, they're doing webinars, just like a seminar, to sell or to just share what they're doing on their video games or whatnot. But they're not necessarily building community intentionally. They're doing it by happenstance, and they're not knowing why. So there's a lot of human behavior and psychology in terms of why we chose some of the games that we've done, that we've been able to. Obviously, engagement for Adobe is huge because it helps to feed the bottom line. It helps to feed the pipeline. But there's so many corporate teams out there that are just doing it because they don't know. They just go on and they do a demo of their software and that's it. So what we want to do is to help the audience have a better experience by teaching these teams how to do it better.
I want to know, behind the scenes, what was one of the biggest nightmares?
Oh, David's got this one.
Yeah, it was early on. It was before Heather was part of the team. There was a lot of plates being spun by a few hands, and we had a really big show. And it was a really big, actually, apropos, the partner was Disney, or a bunch of Disney design VPs and whatnot. The type of folk that you don't actually interact with them, you interact with their assistant, and then you hope that they show up, and then they did show up. Unfortunately for us, on that day, our platform, it was kind of a single point of failure, unfortunately, because we only had one, and I knew that we kind of needed a backup, but I had been doing it on paper, but I hadn't really locked in my procedure for that. Our primary platform went down right before the show was supposed to start. And so I had the VIPs who were supposed to be in the backstage area. I had a very large audience, or we had a very large audience. And I had a platform that was broken, and so I had to migrate everyone over to the backup platform, which I hadn't really vetted. And I sent the link out to the VIPs, but we also sent the link out to the audience kind of at the same time, which maybe we shouldn't have done, because once the VIPs got in, all of the audience started pouring in at the same time, and I couldn't keep up with the muting and the turning off the camera. So you had hundreds of little faces showing up while I'm trying to talk and do the hand holding for the VIPs. The show ended up going on eventually 45 minutes late. So I had 45 minutes of chasing people and basically humiliating myself by working with these Disney VIPs. And I definitely learned from that experience to have not just a backup on paper, but a backup that there was a procedure for. And yeah, that was painful. That was a very painful.
We had 900 participants. Muting
yeah, it
all
was
of them.
brutal. It was brutal.
David, bless you. You got through that. So going forward, again, I can't wait to cheer you guys on and see what you all do. But from each of you, when you do an event or when you do bring clients in for Together by Design, either what is something you can't wait to experience, or what is something that when it's done, you'd be like, that was a good day.
I'm excited to interact with other teams.
Like, what excites you about that?
What excites me, oh God, this is not going to sound good, that I think that we just do it the best. And I feel like, some of this is my anger. So angry that you jump into an event I can't even name all of our other companies that we interact with. And they just, like, you're lucky that you're there, listening to their conversation about how great their software is or their product or their service is, and they just don't respect the audience. The way I like to think about doing digital events is like we have a restaurant. So we have a front of the house and we have a back of the house. So I worked in restaurants for a long time. I manage restaurants. So if you're not familiar with those terms, front of the house is the entrance, is the tables where you sit, you enjoy your meal. Back of the house is typically the kitchen where you're doing the prep and whatnot. And so just like in a theater, when your customer comes in, you want to welcome them with hospitality. You want to make sure they feel right, that they see the menu, that they can choose what they want. And when they get the meal, that it tastes great and they leave happy. The back of the house is doing all that prep, making sure that things are organized, that they get their food on time, that they deliver exactly what's on the menu. I think most teams don't do that. They think that you walk into the restaurant, you're happy to be in the restaurant, and you might not get the meal, but you might not get what you want, but you should just be happy with the fact that you got food. And so I think there's just an overwhelming disrespect of the audience, and I don't think it's their fault, honestly. It's like teaching typography for a long time. A lot of designers ask me, why am I learning typography? I've already learned this in school. It's because you respect the reader. It's all about making things more readable so you can absorb the info, so your customers and your students can absorb the information quicker. It's not about making things look pretty. And so, again, that's the difference. I want to bring a little bit more of that light to other teams by demonstrating that this is something that's helping everybody. It's a win-win-win when you respect the audience.
I love it. Heather and David, in closing, any thoughts on that last question?
I do feel that we've been able to build really great systems that are really aligned with the win-win of the audience getting what they came for, but also the brand or the content side being able to communicate what it needs to. That can be a win-win, and it can be a really happy, beautiful place if it's all done well. And I think that there is, for us, excitement in sharing good practices that make that work well, that make it so that the team that is putting it on feels good about it, that the stakeholders feel good about it, and that the audience community feels good about it.
Agreed. If we could just change the narrative for one company to change the way that they're doing digital events, I will feel happy about that.
And push back against pre-recorded events. Sorry. I don't think anyone will show up for a pre-recorded event. Might as well just do a YouTube if that's the case. Do it live. I would say that for designers, I think there is a lot of benefit in participating in these types of events. Constantly contributing to the community, whether it is an in-person event or just showing up to a virtual event. It is really hard for designers, emerging designers, to network, to get jobs right now. How do I get known? How do I get separated or showcased in front of other people or employers? Honestly, it's building your community. It's getting to know the people who show up over and over and over, like letting people know what you stand for, what is it that makes you special, and connecting with other people and helping other people network as well. I think that the digital events is a great way to build your career, because before it used to be in person, right? You would just show up and there's Justin again. It's great to see you, Justin. How are you doing? But, with so many more people joining the workforce, digital has to be the way to go.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, especially with the reality that hybrid and or virtual is going to be present maybe forever, but at least for the near future. And so just understanding how to interact on camera and how to show work or understand or read body language differently now that we have to do it on video, I think is incredibly important, and being comfortable in that space. And maybe those times, although I think these are good times, when you feel awkward by you see someone you want to meet and you're like, oh, I have to go up and talk to that person. Maybe this is a good middle ground, right? To come in and meet someone virtually and then be ready for that next in person.
Thank you so much for having us. It was really, really great to meet you and talk about a little bit more about our philosophy.
Thank you, Rachel, Heather, and David, for sharing your story and for reminding us what connection can look like when it's built with care. What I love about this conversation is how it brings us back to the heart of design. It isn't about the tech or the platform. It's about people. Together by Design isn't just creating digital events. They're designing spaces where people feel noticed, connected, and part of something bigger. In a world that moves fast, they're proving that slowing down, paying attention, and choosing to care might just be the most powerful design tools we have. Because whether it's a live stream, a meeting, or a moment, every interaction is a chance to help someone feel seen. And that's the kind of design that lasts. Before we go, a special shout out to Sleeping at Last for providing the soundtrack to our show. Ryan's music has been a constant source of inspiration. And if you want to hear more, visit sleepingatlast.com or search Sleeping at Last wherever you get your music. And a special shout out to our audio engineer, Steve Wick, who said this episode reminded him that the best sound, like the best design, starts with listening.
Yeah, you're right. I talk too much. I also listen too much. I could be a cold-hearted cynic like you. But I don't like to hurt people's feelings. I like me. My wife likes me. My customers like me. Because I'm the real article. What you see is what you get.
I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did making it. If it moved you or made you think, leave a quick rating or review wherever you listen. Share it with a friend, post about it, and help us keep these stories alive. You can follow us on X at Design of Podcast and check out our site at rule29.com for more. Thanks for listening. And as always, keep noticing, stay curious, and design a life that matters.